In other news, the coalition has not yet approved of a state budget and seemingly is still far away from any agreement ahead of the August 25 deadline. Meanwhile, today, the Knesset will also have to discuss two bills that will once again challenge the fragile connection between the blue and white parties and the Likud party. Here to break down these issues and give us some insights is Gideon Israel, founder and president of Jerusalem Washington Center. Gideon, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good to be here.
All right, now, the blue and white party and the Likud have to evade, as I said, two threats. One is a vote on a bill to establish an inquiry commission on the so-called submarine affair in which Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is potentially involved, and also a bill promoted by the right-wing Yamina party in the opposition that would limit the High Court's oversight capabilities over the Knesset. What can you tell us about these, about these bills?
Well, the bill that Yamina, the right-wing party, has put to vote, and it was actually voted down, says that if a law is canceled by the High Court using the justification of the human rights constitutional law that was 30 years ago, so the Knesset has the option to override the law that was canceled with a majority of 61 votes. Now, the law that was proposed also said that if the High Court wants to cancel a law, it would have to be with at least 11 judges, and you'd have to from the High Court, and you'd have to have 2/3 of those 11 judges voting to cancel the law.
Interesting. So how was that threatening the coalition?
So this was a law that blue and white was against, and they threatened that if this law passed, they would go to elections. It should just be mentioned that in Israel, members of Knesset, at least by the media and by the elites, are seen as the children, and the courts, the High Court, is seen as the adults in the room. So therefore, any law to limit the power of the courts is kind of seen as a law that would sort of throw the adults out of the room and allow the children free reign.
I see. So why was the Likud?
And by the way, that's the way it's looked at by the left. By the right, sure, it's a totally different story.
All right. Well, so with the Likud, though, because you said the blue and white is against this bill, why was the Likud necessarily against this bill as well? Because certain members within the Likud have expressed support for this type of bill. Right.
So the coalition chair, Miki Zohar, said that his position was that the Likud should support this bill, and he was sorry that his position wasn't accepted. But today he said he understood that it would have led to elections, and therefore he understood why the Likud couldn't support it.
I see. All right. So speaking of possibly falling back to elections, I want to go back to the budget now. How close are we to a round of fourth elections? Do you think that they'll be able to pass a budget by the deadline?
So Ayelet Shaked just said this morning that she believes one of them is going to fold, either Gantz or Netanyahu. But this coalition will continue to be fragile until power is turned over to Benny Gantz. There's always this suspicion from many that Netanyahu is looking for that exit ramp to get out of the coalition deal. And any time until Gantz becomes prime minister.
Well, so who would gain and who would lose if an election were called right now?
So I think that since people are feeling that the Likud or Netanyahu hasn't been dealing with Corona as good as he might have done a few months ago, I think the Likud would lose seats. I think also blue and white, now that they have no sort of their reason for running in the beginning was to topple Netanyahu, and now they're just a regular party. So I think the main parties that would gain would be Yair Lapid's party, a little bit of Avigdor Lieberman, and Yamina, who's Bennett is seen as really proposing serious ideas for how to solve the Corona problem. So he stands to gain also.
Well, yeah. I mean, it sounds like there's a big turnover that could happen if that were the case. Gideon Israel, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.